Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. It's time to experience what's possible.
What if there's something you haven't learned yet that could change everything? Welcome, everyone. I'm Sherry Elise, a five-time published author and host of the show Good Morning Joy. I'm here in partnership with Brave Healer Publishing to introduce you to some of the amazing authors in one of their newest books called The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing, Volume 6, 25 Home Practices and Tools for Peak Holistic Health and Wellness. And before I introduce you to these amazing women, I just want to shout out first the lead author of this book, who also happens to be the CEO of Brave Healer Publishing, Laura DeFranco. Laura, thank you so much on behalf of all of us for creating expert resources for healing with practical tools. As I said, this is volume 6. So this came at a time, the first volume, when we were right in the midst of a pandemic and people were needed healing. And it's a magical story that I'm sure you can look more into with Laura, but she had this idea. And now, 6 volumes later, here we are with these amazing women who I'm going to share a little bit about them right now. Deanna Merce Nagel guides healing arts practitioners in integrative, alternative, and holistic interventions into practice. And Johanna Faramond fixes the nervous system that won't turn off. She went from government security to becoming the person tech founders call when burnout breaks their biology. Welcome, ladies. Great to see you.
Great to be
Thanks,
here.
Sherry. So
Yeah,
great to be here.
yes. First, I want to say I read both of your chapters and I said thank you to Laura, but I just want to thank you for stepping up and it's always courageous and brave to be able to put your own personal stories out there and to be able to share your tools. And reading both of your chapters, I was like, okay, can't wait to talk to them. So I'm very curious. I'm going to start with you, Johanna. Can you share with me? What is your chapter and title, and a little bit about the why behind writing this?
Sure. I wrote chapter 14. Your burnout isn't psychological, it's energetic. And the irony is that I spent over a decade spotting threats before they materialized on classified government networks. And I was good at it. But what I missed entirely was that my own nervous system had become the threat.
Mm.
And burnout didn't announce itself. It showed up as decision fatigue, Hashimoto's diagnosis, frozen shoulder, and catastrophic thinking that followed me through job changes, even into an early retirement. And I never had the clarity to see all of these symptoms as connected until I sat down to write this chapter. I just thought it was life. I tried everything: therapy, meditation, breath work. Nothing touched it. And honestly, I'd given up. Then a friend of mine mentioned this healer doing remote hip alignments over Zoom. Nothing at all to do with my burnout, but I'd had a rotated pelvis for as long as I could remember. And my first thought was, that's impossible. So the engineer in me decided to film an experiment to debunk this. 5 skeptics, one physical therapist, and a healer joining from Mexico. Zero physical contact. 2 seconds of silence over a Zoom call. And then guess what happened? All 5 of us measured perfectly aligned and on camera. And that just broke something in me because if distant healing could produce a measurable physical result, I thought, what else am I wrong about? And that question led me to Tongren therapy, where one session dissolved this catastrophic thinking pattern that I'd been carrying for over a decade. And the full story and what I now do for technical leaders whose systems won't stand down is in chapter 14.
Ooh, I gotta tell you, as I read your chapter, Johanna, I was like, all of a sudden I'm seeing all the connections with myself and I'm like, oh, I have that. Oh, I have that. And I'm very well aware of the nervous system in terms of like mine is always turned on. So it was fascinating to see it from your perspective. It was the journey that you took us on from, I don't want to obviously give it all away, although you shared, but like just that moment with the psychic to being like this. I loved it. It was so well written. This whole awareness of what was happening and then you diving full into it. Um, were you shocked, coming from this technical space that there was a system to being able, because no one talks about this biology behind it, or like we don't really dive into the systems. Were you surprised by what you found?
Do you mean, sorry, can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, were you
Like,
surprised when you learned that there was a system to shut off almost the nervous system,
oh,
like this technique?
definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what, for anyone that's listening right now, what is something about that do you think that they would be surprised about their nervous system that maybe we have no awareness around?
Just, I suppose that it's all connected. You
Hmm.
can't just separate your work life from your home life and your catastrophic thinking. It's all to do with your biology. And all of that cortisol, once your body gets used to a certain level, it stays. It's a new set point. They're finding that out in biology now. This is your new normal. And until you adjust that, you can remove all of the stressors. You can change your life circumstances. But guess what? You still have that same nervous system, and until you fix that default, it's just going to stay that way. And then, of course, disease will pop up and all
All of the
sorts of
things.
other issues. It's all connected. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all connected.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask you, Deanna, the same question. Tell us about your chapter and title and what was your why behind writing it?
So I wrote chapter 20, Essential Soul Care, Daily Sacred Rituals to Support Your Healing Journey. Um, and I wrote this chapter because while I tell my story about how I came to all of this, I'm a therapist by trade. I'm a clinical supervisor, coach. And so I tend to be the curator of courses.
Mhm.
And as I developed Essential Soul Care, I created a lot of the material for a course, but I wanted people to know that you don't have to be a therapist to use this. It doesn't have to be a facilitated process. It can be self-healing. It can be a tool that you can use on your own individually. And at the same time, for therapists and healers and coaches who are curious, it is a protocol, a psychospiritual model that is a protocol. So that was my impetus for writing the chapter.
To really be able to give people the tools to be able to take care and heal themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I found so interesting in your chapter, the marriage between the therapy, of course, the science and all that, and the spirituality and your journey, your personal journey, and just the creation of it. Like I felt like I was on a ride with you and like birthing all of that. Was that was that your hope as you were doing that?
Well, I think in the midst of all of it, I was
Mhm.
having my own spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
So all along the way, I would have these glorious aha moments that would just pour into the project.
Hmm.
I mean, literally, as I was writing the self-help book and the corresponding oracle deck with my co-author, it was coming out of what I was literally experiencing.
Yeah, and you can, I mentioned this in the beginning about all of Laura's books. These series are really about giving practical tools, which I think is the unique gift in all of these that people get to walk away right in their hands, ways to be able to heal. And it's for everybody at every time. And you did that, but I also loved on a person as a storyteller, like exactly what you just said, that I felt that excitement and those aha moments and that creation and that energy around this was all just pouring through you, which then makes you want to in the tools, well, what is this that you created? So I loved that. Can you share maybe one of the tools that you have in your soul care?
So the essential soul care, keyword essential, was um, influenced by my introduction to essential oils,
Mm-hmm.
which was over a decade ago. Um, and I call them beings in a bottle because you open that bottle and the genie comes out, and it can be very magical. Certainly, I later became an aromatherapist because I wanted to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So I know all of the physiological bits about essential oils, but the emotional and spiritual support that essential oils can give just simply by opening a bottle, inhaling, or anointing yourself can be an amazing first step because that olfactory sense for many of us can be a portal to
Yeah.
some sort of change.
That was actually one of my favorite things that I learned in there was actually like I hadn't I mean I understand the connection. You smell a scent, it brings you back, but to be able to use that intentionally, as you shared with affirmations, to be able to create what it is that you want and that moment of smelling something and it just automatically bringing that to you, that was powerful. I loved that. So thank you for sharing that. And if you're watching this right now, there are so many more tools from both of them in there that you get to learn. Let me ask you, I'll stay with you, Deanna. Why do you think the holistic aspect is important when it comes to healing?
Lived experience. I went through traditional psychotherapy myself.
Mm-hmm.
Then I became a psychotherapist. And and I was also dealing with some physical autoimmune issues, still do. And I didn't get a straight out healing experience from either the allopathic medical model or straight up psychotherapy. But when I started combining more holistic alternative approaches, and I don't like the word alternative, but people understand what that is,
Right.
because I don't think they're alternative. I think they're going back to our roots.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I started combining that, then I began to notice improvement in myself. And so I think that while I'm still very endeared to my original career as a psychotherapist and I train therapists, I think that, and we're learning this, just as Johanna said about the nervous system, like there has to be a somatic experience, in my opinion, or some sort of tactile experience to take you out of the frame that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't think talk therapy alone can do that. And I don't think just masking the symptom with a drug does it either.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a combination.
Yeah. I'll ask you the same question, Johanna. Why do you think that holistic is important, being holistic, a holistic therapy or however modality when it comes to healing?
Mhm. I think if you just can't separate the body as into separate parts. One of the things that I learned that was quite surprising, and you only learn this when you start digging into the research, is if you have a neck injury like whiplash, this can cause brain fog, decision fatigue 10 to 15 years later. Now, if you're just going to a psychotherapist for that, well, of course, you're going to have things in your life that you can unpack and look at. But is someone really asking you, what about your injuries to your spine? Because again, it all comes back to the nervous system. Is your body communicating properly? Is your brain communicating properly to your organs, or your organs then communicating back to your brain? And if any of that is off, it affects the whole body. So it has to be holistic. You just can't separate all of these parts. They work as a collective intelligence.
I love that. Both of your answers are so insightful for us because I think often especially in the Western world, as you said, you have one problem, one symptom, and you just treat that and don't, as you said, look at it as a whole. And we are whole people. So I love the modalities and the fact that everything is brought to our attention in the working together. Johanna, so what would you say is the most important thing that you want people to know about burnout itself?
That it's not a mindset issue, that you can't just manage your calendar a certain way and get out of it. That it's not just a psychological issue. It's not something that's wrong with you. Your body, when it's not working properly, you're not going to be able to make decisions. You're not getting the blood flow that you need to do that, right? There are blockages in that bioelectrical system. So it's not something that you should feel shame about or blame yourself about, no more than if you broke your ankle, you wouldn't be able to run a marathon. It's the same thing with the mind. And I think we put so much pressure on people when it comes to mental disorders, and we just call them that, right? Mental disorder. Well, no, it's the body not working properly. It just comes back to that holistic framework.
I just had this moment as you just said that when you said so much pressure. I think this whole, all of ours, we have to change our mindset and we have to do all this. And I think what I hear you saying is that it's not always only that, that there's so much more involved. And I think that if we can't heal or change our mindset in that way, then we often think that maybe there's something wrong with us when we might not just be looking in the correct place is what I'm hearing
Exactly.
you say. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
and I really
Yeah.
thank you for that because that does take a lot of pressure. Like there is a whole other system to look at. So thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing your chapter. And for you, Deanna, what is the most important thing that you would want people to know about sacred rituals in supporting our healing?
There is no singular path. There are many ways that we can create spiritual sacred space in our day every day. And sometimes those tools may be different day by day.
Mm.
Some people believe in meditating for 30 minutes every day at certain times. And if that works, that's fine. But for me, again, lived experience, yeah, that's not me. No, that's not working for me. Let me try this. No, that's not it. And so essential soul care gives you like a toolbox, literally a toolbox, a toy box to take out and try on. And maybe you'll use it and it works or it doesn't. Maybe you'll return to it. But that would be my message. It's not set in stone. And you didn't do it wrong if it didn't work.
I love that messaging too, as far as like, again, taking the pressure off of people that just because it works for somebody else and everybody's great at meditation doesn't mean that you are too. And so, yes, I love it. Feels like a buffet. It feels like a buffet of healing, to be honest, from both of you, of just being able to offer this and to the community and readers. So I just want to thank you both so much for what you do in the world and for being here to share it with everyone. And to our listeners, this is way more than a book. This is, as you can tell, a generous community who was here for you to answer any questions, to carry on a conversation like we just had, and to support you on your journey. And so, if you resonated with something we talked about today, please, you can go down to the show notes where we shared both of our authors' links. Explore. I'm certain that they're happy to connect and share what's going on with them. And of course, we hope that you hop on over to Amazon and grab your copy of this amazing book. The link is below as well. And lastly, everyone in the Brave Healer community wants you to remember that your words will change the world when you're brave enough to share them. It's time to be brave. We'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.